Joey, this week is Friday the 13th.
Yes, sir.
And I remember growing up in young age, going to school, and kids saying, Friday the 13th. It's this week. And it had
a bad day.
Bad day.
Scary day.
A lot of superstitions. Do you have any superstitions you still follow?
Yeah, I don't, when I play ball, I don't jump over the white line. I don't jump on the white line, foul line.
I seen a lot of people do that. Maybe superstition, maybe it's etiquette, maybe a little bit of both.
I feel like you're going to have a bad game if you step on it.
Well, it's funny. We're doing a episode on the 9th, the week of Friday the 13th, and we had to stop recording already. Because, of course, today, as we're talking about Friday the 13th, the neighbors next door are definitely using some form of a hammer drill or a sawzall where you can literally hear it on recording. So if you hear some spooky sound effects, that is not us. That is, in fact, the neighbors, and we are hearing it on the microphone, just as a heads up. Because
no one farted, so...
Yeah, the first time we did the first take, it sounded
like you ripped ass.
Sounded like I ripped a protein fart, like legitimately, like legit. But there's a lot of people that have superstitions, and we want to know where Friday the 13th came from. The lore, and I did find something.
The lore.
The lore. Oh, I gotta do it again. The lore. We can use the lore.
Groundhog's Day.
Oh, there it is.
Back.
Right on cue.
Oh, man.
I swear to God, you can't get lucky. What do you think that is? What tool do you think?
We're doing an episode on Friday the 13th.
That's because I started talking about the lore and Elon hates me now. He hates me.
We have the best lore. It's the greatest lore of all.
We have a better lore than you, Elon.
All right. This is crazy.
Yeah. Well, listen, there's really nothing we can do about it.
Roll with the punches,
maybe. We gotta roll with the punches. But anyways, I did a reel on Friday the 13th.
There's an app where you can cut out that background noise. You know what I mean?
I can clean it up. Yeah. I can try to clean it up. It gives my work a little bit, makes it a little harder. But I did a lure about 2 years ago about Friday the 13th. We haven't done an episode about it, but it kind of fits into this week. And it was based on a Norse mythological story. And from that story, the number 13 just became this unlucky thing. So I'm going to actually get into the exact lore of this. The lore of Friday the 13th comes from a Norse story, the Dinner of Doom, where it is one of the darkest stories tied to the number 13 in Norse mythology. In Asgard, the land of gods, 12 deities were invited to the Feast of Valhalla, which, by the way, Brawlhalla, great game. And Asgard is a map on the game. It's better than Super Smash Brothers. Goddamn the sound. The 13th guest at the event of this dinner was the god Loki, who is the god of mischief and mayhem, as we can see in the Marvel representation of it.
Right. Remember the mask? It was Loki in the mask.
Oh, that's right. I just seen that. Yeah, it was Loki.
Yeah.
And he was mischievous, but in a good way, because Jim Carrey, his character
was crazy.
What was his name? Ickis? Stanley Ickis.
Oh, yeah.
Ickis!
Ipkiss. There you go.
Yes. Was it? Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And that was also the name of the Real Monsters, the little red guy. Ickis. Was it? Yeah. Huh. Yeah. Just information that there's no use for whatsoever at all. But anyways,
this is why we podcast.
Yeah, this is exactly why we podcast. So the 13th guest was Loki, the god of mischief and chaos, and he arrived uninvited. Loki manipulated the blind god Hor. Yes, it is Hor or Hor.
Horus.
Into killing his brother Balder, the god of light, joy, and purity, with a spear made of mistletoe. Believe it or not. You think of mistletoe and kisses and all that fun stuff, but that was the only way to kill the Balder. Balder's death triggered a chain of events that would eventually lead to Ragnarok, the Norse version of the end of times, the final battle between the gods and the giants. And as we hear giants again in a mythological story. And this is why Friday the 13th gets the number 13 and is used in pop culture and unlucky, and it's all derived from that. The symbolism behind superstition, Loki equals the chaos, the 13th rune in the Elder Futhark Iwas symbolizes death and transformation. Some scholars believe this rune connects the 13 with endings, change, and passage to the other side. The Ragnarok prophecy. After Baldur's death, the god knew the end was near. Thus, 13 wasn't just a bad omen. It was the beginning of the end. I wonder how many Friday the 13th we've had in our day. Since we've been alive, at least.
A lot.
Probably a lot. And, before we had to cut because Bob Vilo is living next door, and
how many times a year does Friday the 13th happen?
That's a great question. Maybe I think once a year. It has to be once a year.
Once a year, then 40.
You know what? I actually can't use ChatGPT on this phone.
Really?
Yeah, because this is my burner phone.
Oh,
no, it's not. It's my other phone that I had before I got my new phone. So you could look that up. But we were just talking before we cut because the sound was crazy, and they're doing whatever they're doing on this particular day while we're recording. That even apartment buildings and planes don't have a 13th row and a 13th floor because of superstition, which people actually take that into consideration when they're constructing.
It's gone really far. They're like, no one likes that number 13.
It's insane. And the fact of the matter is that superstition is something that a lot of people have. There's a lot of people that still carry a lucky rabbit's foot. Remember those back in the day? Mm-hmm. Some people throw salt over their shoulder. Well, this is actually something that we covered recently. When you are talking about something that you don't want to happen, what's something that you usually do?
67 Friday the 13th from January 1st, 1986 to June 9th. 2025.
Only 67?
67.
Wow, that's not a lot.
No.
You wouldn't think you would, it's crazy.
It's definitely more than we are in age.
If you're telling me a story that you're playing baseball and you were pitching and you're like, oh, Bill, I don't want to get Tommy John surgery. I'm throwing pretty hard. Like, what's something you would do before you say that?
What's something that I would do? Yeah,
but you see this a lot. Some people do it, some people don't. They either make the sign of the cross or they do what?
That's superstitious.
Knock on wood. And the knocking on wood thing came from, I believe, a Celtic where they believed gods lived in trees. So they would go around to the trees knocking on wood to get the gods out to protect them. So that's why we get this knock on wood thing.
It's like, yeah, I'm going to battle. I need you real quick.
Yeah. Come on out and help me with this. This is so annoying. It really is. I think turning the mics up would actually make it a little worse. You can actually pick up the sound. I don't think it's going to sound that bad on the I don't think it's going to make me have to do too much work. But anyways, then because of all the lore of Friday the 13th and the lore that people, have going on their everyday life, and some people are very superstitious. The other day I was out somewhere momentarily for a little event late in the day, and I told this individual, yeah, the car's brand new. I got a brand new car. They went into their house and took $2 worth of quarters and threw it randomly in my car. And then they took out holy water and they blessed each side of the car. That's not superstition. It's kind of like, holy water. Holy water doesn't really work, by the way. If you, no, I'm not saying it like that, but I'm saying if you are blessing something, you technically don't have the power to bless. You have to be in the presence of God, the tabernacle, a church. If you take holy water, make the sign of the cross, you can't physically bless someone. You know what I mean? Like blessing a house, a priest comes to bless the house.
What happens if I take a water gun and hook it up
to a holy water fountain?
Right from in the church, and I spray my car.
Your car will be blessed for a long time, and there will be not a single vampire that will come your way for sure. Absolutely. Have you seen Friday the 13th, any of the movies?
Yes.
What do you think about that? Does it have anything to do with Friday the 13th? Because I'm not really big into Friday the 13th.
Not. I feel like they just wanted to take a day that everybody knows that's everybody already has superstition around and make it scarier. This ghoul from the ocean, or not the ocean, the lake, comes out, and kills people and kills kids in camps and shit. It's a strange movie.
It is a strange movie. It's a Camp Crystal Lake.
Camp Crystal Lake. Yeah.
The game was out for a while, and I was playing it. I had no interest in Friday the 13th, and the game was kind of fun. You had to escape Crystal Lake, and then one person was picked as Jason. And you run away from them, and you have to work together to get off the camp. That was pretty cool. Short-lived, though. But it was a fun game. Now what were you going to say? You were saying you were doing
the face mask. The first movie, that famous hockey mask, he didn't have that the first movie. It was just a bag on his head. It was just a guy with a bag running around killing people with a machete.
See, I didn't even know that because I don't think I remember the first movie.
It was so stupid.
Was it?
And I felt like at some point it was scary to people, but then he adapted the face mask in like part 2, I think.
Why a hockey mask? Because it is a hockey mask.
I think he went into a shed and just saw it hanging, and he saw his like ugly face in the mirror, and then he just like, you know.
Did they ever give the backstory on how he got that way?
Yeah, he was like deformed. Like he was just like a, you know.
So he's just deformed.
He had a birth defect.
Deformed
and he had like a deformed face, kind of looked like Chunk from the Goonies. Not Chunk, Sloth from the Goonies.
Hey, you guys.
Hey, guys. That's basically...
okay. I'm not, believe it or not, I'm not big into Friday the 13th. Never really was big into Freddy. Predator 1 and 2.
Then they ended up fighting each other, Freddy and Jason.
Yeah, I saw that. That was stupid.
Terrible.
Yeah, it was dumb. Freddy versus Jason. You got a guy that somehow inherited supernatural powers that just kills people randomly.
And then the backstory on Freddy now is that he's a pedo.
No.
Yeah, so you got Freddy.
Did he?
You got a pedo, and then you got a guy who was like abused as a kid.
Oh my God.
Like going at one another. It's hilarious.
Oh my God. Wow. So, I mean, listen, Friday the 13th. So what, do you take any precautions on Friday the 13th?
I don't do anything crazy on Friday the 13th, I will say. I do have some kind of superstition around Friday, like 13th number. Like, my uncle was born. It was a trippy story. He passed away. He was 27. He was born 8/13, and he died 3/18.
Holy shit.
The exact opposite, of his birth. But he always used to say, the 13th is luckiest day of his life because, he was born.
Wow.
So I used to joke about it because everybody was like, oh, your birthday's on the 13th, But yeah.
But his birthday always didn't
What's
fall
crazy is
Friday.
after he passed away, shortly after he passed away, the next house that I moved into as a kid, the address was 1813 Bogart Avenue.
Oh. Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Did you ever play those numbers for the lotto?
No, never. Maybe I should.
Yeah, I would.
Then they'd be lucky, but...
Wow. Yeah, I don't have any really crazy superstitions that I do. I think in the recent couple of months, this is more faith-wise. I've been making the Santa Claus before I start the gym because of everything going on. And, I'm just thankful that I've made the progress I make. So I just remember to try to do that. There's days I don't remember, but I make it my point to do that. Like really superstition, man.
Merry Superstition.
Yeah, it's a good song to have on here.
Yeah.
I used it last week for Superstition Mountains though.
Maybe that's the song that you should use into the segue of the episode.
Yeah, if I don't get sued.
Yeah,
There's a very fine
copyright,
line you
yeah.
have to follow.
You gotta find one that kind of sounds like it, but it's not it.
So my sound guy, he moved and he's very busy. His job is crazy. So he's traveling and he made, for the Ghostbuster episode, he actually made a cover, which you can use. You can use covers because, it's a cover song. So if he was more, had free time to do it, he likes music. And he would make it like that. And I would be like, hey, I'm making an episode in 2 weeks. I
wonder if there's an AI app that does that now.
I'm sure there is.
This AI is taking over everything.
So your mom is very entwined in some of this like psychic stuff and things like that. Does she have? Your mom looks like she would have some kind of superstitions.
She probably does.
You know any that she does that you catch her doing?
No. Did I ever tell you that story about my mom?
The WTC?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was trippy.
Crazy. We said that on an episode. I don't know if we have time for that, but like that's we'll talk about it one day.
That was a very trippy story. She said that in a dream that she saw people falling.
She was in the World Trade Center, had a dream, people falling out the window, and like woke up in a panic attack screaming. They had to take her to the hospital, escort her out the building. Wow. Like it was a bad panic attack. Yeah, that's how realistic the dream felt. And then a couple of years later.
Wow.
Yep.
I think dreams, though, play a factor. Like, it's some of your fears, like maybe being in a tall place. And like, I always have dreams. Right. I always have dreams of.
She was like, I saw it so vividly. I saw somebody sitting in their chair, rolling from their chair out the window after an earthquake. Like she said, some kind of earthquake. There was something that shook the building. And she's like, I watched this person just get blown out the window.
Yo,
That's kind of crazy.
some of them dreams are so bad, bro. Like I had 2 dreams recently that were like, why did I have that dream? And in that dream, I've legitimately seen like people dying,
Right.
And younger people, which was like more horrifying. Random people just made up. And you know how they say your brain can't put a face in a dream that you don't never seen or never recognize? There was a face. Like I seen the face. It was a face, and you know, and obviously I can't recall it, but it was definitely a face that I saw in the dream. And I'm like, this is weird. This is scary. And I remember waking up very uneasy from those dreams. But superstitions, like anything I do, I don't really have any superstitions, to be honest with you. I got routines.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like if I don't get my coffee in the morning, I'm gonna be fucked for the day. You know what I mean? Like I have a routine. I live so close to like a 7-Eleven. Every morning before work, I have to go there. And mind you, I drink an espresso before I go to the gym.
It becomes a superstition when you go there and you think that like your day is going to be bad if you don't go there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. Or you're going to get a headache from the lack of caffeine, for the most part.
Yeah.
You know,
But that's that's like physical.
Right, that is physical.
The other stuff is like metaphysical. You know what I mean?
So, real quick, I don't want to forget this part because I think it's pretty cool. The influence on folklore and culture with 13. So I was trying to ask you if you had any superstitions besides from the baseball one. I really don't have any. I catch myself doing
Knocking
this.
on wood.
But
I think everybody does that.
I try not to do it now that I know the background of it. It's kind of...
Sometimes I knock on my head.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I say knock on, but like, it's kind of woody up there. It's like
2 heads that could be woody.
There's not too much
You know what I
going on
mean?
up there. Just
don't knock on the other wood. It might hurt. Depending on what's going on. Anyway, yeah, in Christianity, obviously the Last Supper mirrors the Norse tale of the 13 people at the table. The 13th being Judas, who is in fact the one that betrayed Jesus and gave him up to Pontius Pilate. In witchcraft lore, some claim that 13 witchers gathered in the covens, a number seen as both complete and dangerous. In European peasant folklore, Friday was often the day where people were executed, hanged, or tried for their crimes. And then, of course, in modern day influence, horror media that leans into betrayal, death, and supernatural on Friday the 13th, although I don't know the betrayal in Friday the 13th movie. He's just randomly killing people. Jason Voorhees, the main villain in the film franchise, often acting as an agent of vengeance and doom, much like Loki, or the forces unleashed by Baldur's death. Mm-hmm. Pop culture's obsession with the unlucky number 13 dates back thousands of years, and Friday the 13th, ultimate reminder about the ancient fear. So, and I keep forgetting about 13 in the Last Supper.
I have a superstition.
Do you?
I don't like splitting the pole when you're walking past like a sign or something.
I'm glad you said that.
But it's got to be taller than you. So if the pole is taller, I don't like splitting it with somebody. If it's like lower than us, it's fine.
Ladders.
Going under them.
Right. So I
don't go other than.
At my job, we've been doing construction on a certain area. And there was ladders set up. Mm-hmm. And I remember walking down this alleyway and someone was on the ladder. And I was like, I don't want to go under the ladder. I'm going to squeeze past you behind you. Don't worry, I'm not going to knock you off. I didn't go under the ladder. But, you know, I don't believe in any of that. I actually did an episode, I think when I was still by myself, on debunking the black cat thing. If you see a black cat cross your path, you know, that's bad. Can't go under a ladder.
Some black cat crossed my mother's path. She crashed my car. I swear to God.
Was it turkey?
She avoided the cat and she killed
Was it turkey?
No, probably not. Turkey. Maybe, imagine it was Turkey's mother and we didn't even know, and now she takes care of that cat.
Imagine that. Not for nothing. If Turkey ever if Turkey was an outdoor cat, you ain't missing that cat. You see him a mile away.
He's a big boy.
He's a big boy.
Yeah.
He needs some first form ASAP. He needs to start tracking.
He gets in the gym like he could really put on some size.
He needs to start tracking meows ASAP.
We get him on MyFitnessPal.
You know what? I'm actually, ChatGPT on my phone can't do it. Why is it bad? The superstitions of mirror breakings and ladders. Let's get that to end with that. Why that? So I have done that episode, and it was a long time ago, and I can't recall the exact reasons for each, but there was some interesting ones in there. The ladder one, the mirror one, the black cat one. I want to get that.
Superstitions on mirrors. about breaking mirrors and bringing 7 years of bad luck is one of the most widely known beliefs in Western folklore. And it's stepped into ancient ideas about reflections of soul and fate. So, something to do with, let's see. It says origins of superstition, ancient beliefs. It kind of sounds like BS, but, breaking a mirror was seen as damaging your soul or inviting misfortune by disrupting the connection between the physical and spiritual.
I could see that. I mean, especially that it's been debunked because there's a science behind it. If you stare at a mirror in a dark room long enough, you start seeing like weird shit.
Yeah. They say not to stare at yourself in the mirror too long too. I don't know.
I think that's because of the science behind it. You'll bug yourself out. There's I forgot the exact terminology, but there's like a terminology a science term that something starts happening when you stare at yourself in the mirror, like you're not blinking and the lights are dim. You'll start seeing your reflection like morph and actually do things you're not doing.
Start seeing the universe, bro. It's all an illusion. It's a computer. That's a computer game.
That's what people are saying. And then the ladder thing. What was that?
Breaking the what do they call it? The something wall. The
fifth wall.
The fifth wall.
The fifth wall.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. What did they say about the ladder thing?
Let's see.
I know there was a reason behind that. I think one of them dates back to Egyptian stuff. I think the black cat thing dates back to Egyptian thing. The Egyptians, first of all, cats were worshipped in Egypt, but I think it has something to do with Egyptian lore, if I'm not mistaken. Give it to me.
Brings bad luck is one of the oldest Western, obviously. They start you off with the same BS. It says it mixes ancient symbolism, religious beliefs, and practical safety, I guess.
This is for the ladder?
Yeah. It says, why is the ladder unlucky? Because of its triangle symbolism. It's a sacred shape. Let's see what else I can find.
But you can't usually go under a ladder when it's fully open on 4 of its legs. I'm talking about when it's leaned up against something.
But even when it's leaned up against something, think about it, it's still making a triangle.
That's true.
The wall, the ladder.
That was a cool sound effect.
I got a bunch of them.
Let me check my phone. I got a message.
That was a good one, right?
Yeah. Wow, look at this guy. Look, we found a hidden talent in this
Superstition.
Joey is full of talent.
I got surprises, bro.
Yeah. Once upon a time, Joey and me went bowling.
It's about triangles, bro. That's it. Yeah, it's the Trinity and triangles. The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit.
All that fun stuff.
Yeah.
When Joey and I look at our second or third year of friendship, we went bowling, and I said, Joey, I bowl pretty good, and I brought my bowling bag, and we went to one of those bowling alleys that it's a computer, and you can't have a practice shot.
I probably never seen a bowling ball spin like that in my life in person.
And I threw the first frame, threw the ball, it curved, got a strike, and Joey's like, how'd you do that? And then he second strike, and then I hit like a 9, and I got the spare, and it was like one of the one pin all the way to the left, and I made it curve, and he goes, you got magical little hands. These magical little hands. I'll never forget that. I was dying laughing.
Good time.
That was a good time, man. You got magic little frog hands.
We used to have meme wars, and I used to put his face on anything that I could find with small hands.
Oh my god, the amount of you got tagged in a post on Facebook that I had on my old original Facebook page was diabolical.
Yeah.
Diabolical. Well, Joey, it was a short episode, and I'm definitely cutting it a little shorter because of this sound.
Yeah.
But I cannot wait to hear how bad it is, and I have to edit that out.
Hopefully, it's not so bad.
No, it's not. I don't think so. But it's superstitions. We talked about Superstition Mountains last week, and now we got Superstitions of Friday the 13th coming at you in 4 days.
Yep,
that's crazy. And I'm actually going to try.
The universe tried it, bro. They didn't want us to talk about this.
They tried.
They tried it.
They failed.
Yep.
The one thing we're good at. Ruining a wet dream.
They're like, we're giving you the sign. Don't talk about this. You guys are going to be cursed.
We have ruined the...
And as I said that...
we are ruining the universe's wet dream. I personally will be treading carefully on Friday. There's a lot of stuff going on in my life. Dad has dialysis on Fridays.
Mm-hmm.
Doctor's appointments all week usually. So, I'll be extra cautious. Not that I believe in it. I do have a tendency to believe in curses a little bit, but I will be very extra cautious this Friday, especially because it's Friday the 13th. And we'll make a cool post, include the episode that airs Wednesday with the sound effects of raindrops and hammer drills going off. Courtesy of Joey and our neighbor. It's going to be great. And you too can have hammer drills going off and Joey making raindrop sound effects.
Or alien noises.
Whoa. I was about to call the FBI and get Mulder and Scully in here.
Get him in here, bro.
We don't even need a soundboard. I don't even use the soundboard. Yeah. You know what? I give you that? Hold on. What else you got?
That's it.
Do the raindrop again. There we go. I used the soundboard. But now we have a real action, live action.
I got to work on some new sounds then.
How often did you try out for pentatonics? No,
definitely not.
No. Okay, well, they could have used you. One guy that does that. Yeah. That would have been good. But yeah, you can do all this stuff on your very own podcast by using Spotify for Creators. If you haven't heard about Spotify for Creators, it is the free app that allows you to get your podcast idea
out there.
If you have a phone, tablet, and or computer, head over to Spotify for Creators to get started. Joey, Billy, be careful this week, Friday the 13th. Yo, dude, that bugs me out. I didn't know you could do that. And how many years of friendship? And now I know you can make sound effect. It sounds like the old guns we used to get as a kid. Remember, the spaceship gun? It'd make all those. I don't know why it did that. I would just
generation will never know about that sound.
They'll never know. You get toy gun. It would just make all these different sound effects. I liked one of the sound effects. I just wanted one sound effect, and I had to go through the cycle of
all of them just to get to the one you like.
That's the one I want. And you have to, and then that would be it. The cycle through it. There's no oh man, the good times.
Good times.
Yeah, but be careful, everyone, because Friday the 13th is approaching, and there's been another episode of the Say What Again Billy podcast. Peace.